Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this very special show on British Kashmiris. And we will today discuss the latest situation and state of British Kashmiri inclusion and recognition within the British equality system. Um, I will just give you very brief introduction to the show, so the people who are not aware of who British Kashmiris are, how many are there in Britain, and where they come from, and what kind of issues they face. So I'll just briefly um, introduce this community. The presence of Kashmiris uh, in Britain goes back before the formation of Jammu Kashmir state in 1846. And by 1947, when this state was invaded and divided under the occupation of India and Pakistan, there were hundreds of people already settled in Britain, mainly from what is now called division. So Mirpur, these people from Poonch and Muzaffarabad divisions as well, but were relatively small numbers. And in 1960s, when the racial discrimination was becoming a problem in Britain, the people from different former colonies were targeted of racial discrimination and racist attacks. So, the race relation act was introduced in 1965 to tackle this issue, and discrimination on race, color, or any other ground was made an offense. But to monitor the discrimination and the performance of different communities towards the goal of equality, this 1991 census was the first when the first time ethnicity question was included in national census. And since then, the information and understanding of different ethnic minorities' lives in Britain, the opportunities they are availing or not availing, the hurdles, the barriers, and the sporting network, all the information about all these aspects are now readily available to different institutions. And this data is crucial to make policies for all the institutions, which public institution, which deal any aspect of public life. And but by around 90s involved in the anti-racist and anti-imperialist struggles in Britain, they realized that the Kashmiri community actually missing out, and they are lagging behind in so many aspects of life, because the data about this community is very ambiguous, because if they come from the Indian side of Kashmir, they are included in the census as Indians. And if they come from the Pakistani side of Kashmir, they are counted as Pakistanis. So their specific needs and issues are not, um, at the moment, cannot be identified. And if they can be identified, they can't be addressed. So they launched this campaign, Kashmir National Identity Campaign, and then currently this campaign is changed to British Kashmiri Identity Campaign, BKIC, which campaigned quite, which actually ran a very popular campaign before the last census of 2021. How many people have actually ticked the option of other and wrote in Kashmiri is yet to be seen, and I think it will be available very soon. So Dar Aftab will have more update on this, one of our guests. And but this particular program was prompted by a message shared by Dr. Shaheen Shora, who is also our guest today, when she made aware that while she was applying for some grant or reward, or she was surfing, and she saw this Asian Kashmiri in the box under the ethnic question of research application, and she was obviously very pleased to see that. And that is when we thought that I think it is time that we do a show on Kashmiri inclusion in Britain and update people what is going on and what are the future possibilities and opportunities, and how we can avail those opportunities as a community across Britain. So let's welcome our guests and see what they have to say on different issues which I briefly mentioned here. Our first guest is Dr. Shaheen Shura. She works as a consultant psychiatrist. She is clinical director, mental health services, Hertfordshire. She is regional fellow at Royal Society of Medicine, London. So, welcome, Dr. Shaheen. Welcome, Ji. And now we have with us Councillor Daalat Ali, who is the Labour Councillor and Deputy Leader in Rochdale Borough Council, and a very long time campaigner for Kashmiri recognition and inclusion in Britain, who has campaigned in so many institutions and is still uh, quite strong on that. So welcome, Councillor Daalat Ali.
Thank you.
And then we have with us Sardar Aftab Ahmed Khan. Sardar Aftab Ahmed Khan is currently the spokesperson of a British Kashmiri Identity Campaign, and he was one of the main, actually key person who led the campaign um, before the previous census. And he is a local government officer. He's working as a lead officer for the transformation of local government currently. So welcome, Sardar Aftab.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जनाब थैंक यू
Okay, yeah. So first of all, I will start with Dr. Shaheen because, like I mentioned in my introduction, it was her message that prompted this program. So, Dr. Shaheen, can you explain a bit more about the research network and what you are doing and how you became aware of this Dropbox opportunity that you can take Asian Kashmiri as well?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Shams Rahman sir, for inviting me. I wasn't actually aware that my message prompted this program, so it's quite pleasing to hear that. So, as you know, we did run a very successful British Kashmiri identity campaign, which was actually run and organized by Sardar Aftab Khan Sahab, who is here. And the whole purpose behind it was getting recognized as a Kashmiri in the census in UK that happened last year. And the significance of that was that it's obviously quite important as Kashmiris to be recognized as a separate ethnicity in terms of census, but also the ramifications that then happen as a result of being identified. So if you're not identified and if you're not visible, no matter how many you are in numbers, you then don't have any place or any importance, whether it's with regards to employment, job opportunities, your educational status, your health status, and also as participants in research. So I'll talk a little bit about research because that's your question. So I'm the dementia research lead in Hertfordshire as part of the East of England research group. And it was while we were filling a form for a grant that you have to enter your details, and the details include, your age, your gender, your sort of professional background, etc. And I was very pleasantly surprised that when the ethnicity box came about, it was for the first time. I've been doing research for a number of years now, in fact, a couple of decades, that there was an opportunity to choose other, and you could choose your ethnicity as Kashmiri. So it didn't have to be Asian other, or you weren't grouped together as part of any other group. You could identify yourself, and I felt really incredibly proud to be able to have the opportunity to choose what I believe is the true representation of my identity. So that's the story behind the message that you mentioned at the beginning. And obviously, the significance of being recognized as the correct racial and ethnic minority in research, it's again significant because research helps us identify, what's the illness or disease format in different population groups. How can we identify what are the reasons behind? How can we plot the health parameters and also the risk factors? And then obviously, how can we then support communities, particular communities, for their treatment, for their management plan, to develop, medications or newer forms of treatment, which would be geared to that unique profile that you have as an ethnic group. So it's not only Kashmiris, Punjabis may have a different ethnic profile, and similarly, so on and so forth. But it's quite important that you're not clubbed together as Asian, because that's a very broad category, and hence the importance.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
absolutely. We'll come back to Dr. Shaheen later on to know a bit more about her role and how the different people in different institutions, how they can play their role for Sardar Aftab census data is going to be available, or roughly estimated to be available.
Assalamu alaikum. Good
And
afternoon.
we start with that.
Yeah, good afternoon. We did have a recently meeting with the. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. We did
Yes,
have
loud.
a recent meeting with the engagement lead for the census in England, and as you will appreciate that the census is over 56 million people, and obviously then ensuring that the data, the relevant data streams are properly accounted for and assigned in different categories. So far the update from the census department is that in the autumn, most probably in October, November time, they would be able to release the first headline figures for the ethnicity aspect of it. Other aspects may start to come, like next month or this month will be. Some of things may come in June, July, most probably. So that's the expectation. In terms of obviously our community knowledge and local interaction and understanding, we are hopeful that this time the British Kashmiris will be well represented. And as Dr. Shaheen just mentioned, that of the strength of our campaign and other, ongoing work, especially within the local government, Councillor Daalat Ali as being deputy leader, the council leader of the council, the mayor of Manchester, Greater Manchester, so similarly in other cities and towns. So that momentum is building up. So there is obviously a lot more to do, because census data is one aspect only. We have to reclaim our identity and also highlight the issues at different forums. And I'm very, very pleased that Dr. Shaheen is focusing on some of the aspects of that one in our research, and at least in one area within the health service in the research we have got recognized. So now we need to look at that, how this is replicated, or whether there are any other research going on in other parts of the country as well. So that's the update in terms of the census, but that will start once that data is available. Hopefully that will create more opportunities for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Just to clarify about that Dropbox, what you call a category, is that is that available in all institutions across Britain? Like it was available in census when you fill in the census form. Similarly, this was when you write KAS, the Kashmir came up. Is that the case? That is available in all institutions, or is just in NHS, or and even in NHS? Is it available in the NHS in general, or just in the research unit? Dr. Shaheen, please.
I don't have the specifics of how widely used it is, and is it used in all the departments in terms of capturing the ethnicity of people. So we have lots of points of entry into the NHS. So for example, when you first are referred as a new referral or as a patient, so in the past years, it used to be, as I mentioned, age, your gender, your religion, but it has expanded. And in some departments, definitely, ethnicity has increased. I actually saw that also during the COVID campaign, that you did have the opportunity to identify yourself as other. So some forms did have a drop box then under other, like other could be, Arab, Kashmiri, etc. But some just had other, and you couldn't further, sub-classify your ethnicity. But I'm sure, Mr. Aftab may have more information on it. But the purpose of the entire campaign was that it becomes a norm rather than an exception, that you are able to choose the correct ethnicity that you identify yourself with in whichever form you fill in, whether it's your passport, whether it's your GP information, whether it's NHS, whether it's school. So hopefully, it will expand to the point where you are able to have choice to choose the option which you correctly identify yourself as. Thank you.
Okay, let's bring Councillor Daalat in. Councillor Daalat, you have been a leading part of this campaign from very, very early days, and you have seen this campaign basically, well, I see it as growing, but I want to know that how you see it in last about 20, 25 years since you became part of this. How you will brief it, whether this campaign is now becoming a public campaign, or is still long way to that?
Bit of both, really. Because I see it, I've experienced it in sort of three parts. And one of them is being when I came here as a young man, sort of in 1970. I couldn't speak English and Punjabi or Urdu, and we were really at every opportunity were ridiculed for our language and where we came from, and then people really used to hide their identity. They were trying to, like speak Urdu. They were trying to speak Punjabi, and then they used to always say, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Islamabad or Patwar or Jhelum." Like really, there were no confidence, because it was like 1930s Irish English scenario, where within 30s Irish used to change their names, and they never said they were Irish, and they used to go to these evening classes to change their accent to get adopted. So that is the atmosphere I grew in when I was a kid. Like, although I didn't go to school, I used to go to college, and I used to work and interact with young people, Pakistani or Indian young people like myself. And then most of us used to really try to be accepted, try to blend in, like not equal to the rest of South Asian communities. And I used to really detest that, and I didn't like it. And I used to rebel, and I used to say, "No, I didn't know if Kashmiri." I used to say, "I'm Mipri, and this is my language. And if you don't know, that is your problem." That's the environment sort of I grew up in. And then that was the case in 50s and 60s. We were not seen as equal, and also most of the Kashmiri community is mountainous, agrarian, lack of opportunities and education back home, and the rest of the communities came from urban middle classes like Faisalabad, like Lahore, like Jalandhar, or Bombay or something, yeah. And because they could speak English, they became our leaders politically.
So this.
No.
So
I'm coming to that. I'm coming. I think it's very important that we set the house in order. So I can't hear you, so I carry on. So
because
they became
we have done this so many times. The long background. I'm talking about has campaign changed anything so far?
Well, any campaign is effective, and I think the campaign is changing things, but not as much as I would like, because I was coming on to that, and then I became local authority officer, and I saw injustices there.
Because I will come back to you. I will come back to you to discuss. I will come back to you. We won't discuss all things in one question. So just hold on, and we will come back to you how it can be made more effective from where you are. Obviously you worked as a senior management level within the institutions, and now you are obviously a senior most in the council, the political side. So we will get your insight on that in a minute. But before that, let's go back to Sardar Aftab. Aftab Sahab, can you briefly explain in a common person's language what is this Racial Equality and Equality Act and all that? Obviously that is why the category of ethnicity is included in different forms and at different level. So why, what are these acts?
Thanks, Shamasab. As you briefly mentioned in the beginning about the Race Relation Act, so it started 1965, then 68, then the first Race Relation Act in a proper shape came in 1976. Then in obviously 91, 92, it has further amendments, and then we got the 2000 Race Equality Act, in which we have the specifically the race equality when it is placed a duty on the local authorities to basically advance equality and do the equality impact assessment. So the equality impact assessment on the basis of the people who living within that local authority area, and that census from 2001 census on the basis of that data which was available, and assess that how their policies, their program, their projects, their initiatives for all public services are affecting people both positively or negatively. So that was the duty on race equality, and it was similarly employment, that how many people from different ethnic backgrounds and are in different levels of the government, from application to the senior management and all that, and that was called equality impact assessments. Unfortunately, from my own my research and understanding suggests that we as a community have not effectively utilized that equality impact assessment process to advance or to actually ascertain our position and our situations from different aspects: education, health, employment, housing, all sort of apprenticeships, you name it, the education attainment levels and all that. Because lack of the understanding, and B, the race equality, racial equality councils or whatever was there, they were mainly focusing on that recognized ethnic groups were, obviously from the South Asian community was Indian, Pakistanis, and Bangladeshis. And we got, because Kashmiris are not there, so not in the data, so hidden in plain sight. And nobody was, obviously effectively challenging. Obviously, there have been challenges and other things. And if you remember and you recall that Daalat was key instigator behind the research when he was the local authority officer in Leeds, and they have commissioned a research on older people research. Daalat, I think he will mention the title of that research, but that was one of the significant piece of work which a local authority did. And then we have obviously on the basis of that result, Daalat has done a international Pahari Adbi Sangat did a language conference, and then in terms of the education, the impact of the on the Kashmiri children's attainment level, education advancement, and the others. One of the first research paper which Daalat wrote was very key in terms of setting the curriculum and how the education system is affecting our people. But largely, obviously there are other political impacts, so other things, that most of our community was on the bandwagon of the Muslim identity, and most of the religion side of the things. And in terms of the legal equality impact assessment, there was no duty on local authorities to monitor the religious basis of the situation, that whether you are whether you are in employment, education, or others. There wasn't any public sector equality duty. The duty was on race equality. And whatever happened, obviously sometime you within the system you try to understand that deflected from because there was no duty on the local authority, so everybody was going on the religious side, but nobody actually hold the public sector to account on the basis where they have to actually demonstrate the equality, how they are advancing equality, or how they meeting the Equality Act 2001 objectives on the race equality. and that was an oversight, and that was the like the particular reason. Then you came in 2012, 2010 Equality Act, which has brought in together the disability equality duty, the race equality duty, and other equality duties in one act. So what I was saying before was the difference between 2000 and the Equality Act 2000 and then Equality Act 2010 is that we have the promotion of racial equality. So in 2010, 2000 Act, Race Equality Act, overall the Equality Act, Race Equality Act was promoting racial equality. So what it then in terms being how it was presented or adopted, that you have sari, samosa, Chinese lantern, and you're promoting the cultural, basically equality rather than the inequality, which is experience or discrimination or other things within the different racial groups. And it is not specifically for Kashmiris; it is many other groups as well. And we thought that promoting equality, sari, samosa, and Chinese lantern and Chinese New Year and everything else. So all that way how it is been there. Anyway, so what is different now? In 2010 Equality Act, the public sector equality duty have three aims. The first aim is that elimination of discrimination, harassment, and victimization on any of the protected characteristics. There are 9 protected characteristics, which is age, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation. Then we have obviously for the employment purposes, we have the pregnancy and maternity. And then local indicators as well. So there are 9 protected characteristics. So the first equality duty aim is that the elimination of discrimination, harassment, and victimization on the base, in any because of any of your protected characteristic. The second aim of the public sector equality duty on own public sector organization is the advancement of racial equality. So it is not promotion of equality, it is advancement of equality. So the advancing equality means that what a public sector or local authority or any public body has done to minimize the differential impact of their policies or their practices and their program on different, if we go into the ethnic section of the thing, that different racial groups or ethnic groups. Now, they have to demonstrate that one through providing an evidence of due regard in each decision making on the local authority. The third aim is basically is that tackling prejudice, fostering good relation is the third aim of the equality duty. Fostering good relation, which means tackling prejudice and promoting understanding. Now, these two the aspect of the duty, the first part of the duty is the elimination of the discrimination, harassment, and victimization. By and large, in generally public sector organizations and generally the organizations are private sector organizations, and there are case laws and other things that they are good in that. What we are not good in within the local government is that advancing equality. Now, advancing equality, we still have that historical baggage of promoting equality. Mean just you do some things over there, like we have some good pictures in our promotional things and others, but actually we do not drilling it down. And the third bit is basically fostering good relations, which is tackling prejudice and promoting understanding. What Daalat was mentioning over there, what we were experiencing back in 60s and 70s, that prejudice which exists between different racial groups as well, which sometime led to the not direct but sometime indirect discrimination as well. And then promoting understanding is that again the public sector duty has that understanding about the makeup of their local communities, for instance. And that's where some of the local authorities, over 16 local authorities in the UK, as we know from that historic campaign which Daalat and yourself and many others have led before I take this responsibility to coordinate, that they have included ethnic monitoring in their local ethnic monitoring data, so that they can what they can do, that they can basically promote understanding of the different aspects of the situation within their local communities, where Dr. Shaheen Shura has mentioned in, like, for
Yeah.
her research in terms of the
Okay.
health. So that's the whole purpose of the Equality Act and their duties, and three parts of the equality duty. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So we have this very I think comprehensive overview of what is available legally, and and what people are entitled of. And obviously, the next question is um, uh, how to be part of that equality agenda as a community. So obviously, we have a campaign from where we try to promote this and to make more people aware. But how we can, Ali Daalat, how we can um, engage more people in the positions of power or decision making who are from our background, how we can engage those people to work with within their institutions and the upper layer of governance in Britain.
I think there are many ways, and I think we've been working bottom up. If you look at the principle of government, why have a government, and how government benefits from this equality agenda, and if it's a community, it's a community, like 1 million strong, say 2-3%, who is running parallel to mainstream. So obviously government is, they are unemployed, they might be more in criminal justice system, overrepresented in, like criminal justice system, underrepresented in education and all the rest of it. So government loses out taxes and, like the services of 1 million people. So the onus are on government to really have an inclusive approach and engage with those people and help and develop them. But in order to do that, I think the councillors can play a vital role. And I was looking at the previous campaign letters, and most of the local authorities that Sardar Aftab have mentioned, they've written to census and they've said Kashmiri community would like to be included. Like Kashmiri community would like to be included. They never wrote that we need this data to deliver services. So I was looking between the lines and I thought, bloody hell, we've been working so long and it's a voluntarily. So all councillors have to do is ask their council, like their chief executive and other directors, including NHS. And I'm coming on NHS. It's a big opportunity in ICS, government white paper changes. And Dr. Seva will know more than me, is that we need this data on this community in order to provide proper services. That's all. It's very, very simple. And I don't know why councillors don't do that. In terms of COVID-19 has presented us with a massive opportunity, because COVID-19 has highlighted massive gaps in health inequalities. And those are not only ethnicity driven, but poverty driven, digital accessibility, councillor states, white people who are very poor, whose lifespan is lower, and really, Kashmiri community really suffered, especially earlier on, because there was no publicity, there was no information going to this community, and they're already in poor health, in ghettos, in overcrowding. They were saying 2-meter distance, yeah, and then these houses only got about 2 feet distance, like opening the doors in Gladdock and in Rochdale and whatever. So COVID-19 has really, really highlighted, and then on top of that, government has introduced a white paper that I am responsible for in Rochdale, and we are really, really working on that in Greater Manchester ICS. And then within ICS, there is a very, very big emphasis in addressing
What is
inequalities.
ICS?
Integrated care system. You know, the health CCGs are going out, and they've changed that, and we've got a Greater Manchester one, and I'm very much involved on that. And Dr. Zahid Chauhan and myself are cabinet members for that within Greater Manchester Mayor. and there is opportunity. And then what I'm introducing in Rochdale is, for example, 6 neighborhoods. Each neighborhoods have 30 to 50,000 people in it. Now, what we are doing is we are centralizing all the data and intelligence and information on poverty, on unemployment, on ethnicity, on, you know, so we will have a state-of-the-art information on which community suffers from diabetes, which community has different dietary needs and what have you. And Kashmiri community is very, very at forefront on that. And then every local authority where there are councillors, Bradford, Birmingham, Luton, they can do that. They've got access to it. And also, when I became councillor, I commissioned a report. I think Aftab and yourself might have read it. You were involved in it. And then that has really, really highlighted the gaps that there are between services, service planners, policymakers, and Kashmiri community. And I think people should use that and take that forward. So we are living in exciting times, but it has to be, it's a true pronged campaign. One is people. So for example, my mother was 93, suffering from dementia, speaks nothing but Pahari. Every time you ask her, Beji, tu kadi zaban bolne ho? Urdu, she thinks Pahari is Urdu. You know, like that sort of set mindset that has to be changed, because our people can't, our elder people can't tell the doctor what's wrong with them. If they're suffering from depression or mental health, and anybody who's suffering from mental health, and you speak with them in a language that they don't understand, it's never help.
So one is working with people, the other was working with the officers.
Not the government itself, the census regime. It's police, in NHS, Home Office, government itself. We are taxpayers. I mean, government gets my money before I get it. So I should get same services as anybody else.
Yeah.
And then as a councillor, we cannot provide equal services unless we know our customer, and we don't know our customer. Our customer is missing.
Yeah. So basically, we have a lot of material now, a lot of information now, which actually needs to be conveyed to the right people in a right way. So coming back to Dr. Shaheen, is that right perception that before this census campaign, the involvement of Kashmiris from in this campaign was very minimal? How did you become aware of this campaign, and what was your initial reaction?
I don't know if I understood your question correctly, Mr. Rehman Saab. Before the consensus and even now, there is a need for a lot of awareness within our community, irrespective of, you know, whether or not how much people linked into the census and the British Kashmiri Identity Campaign. Clearly, it was a very positive step because people became aware, and me, along with predominantly Sardar Aftab Khan's team, put in a lot of effort to reach out to communities, to reach out to Kashmiris, highlighting the significance of why taking part in the census was incredibly important. And I was part of the campaign in whatever way I could be, again, highlighting the reasons, both from the point of view of being a Kashmiri myself, but also the disparities we have in education, in health, in employment, in job opportunities, and generally living standards. So it's an ongoing piece of work. I think even outside of census, this work has to continue, because the implications of the significance of knowing your profile as a ethnic group is absolutely crucial. So even if we speak generally about the health inequalities, I will speak from an NHS point of view. So we have data now which tells us that Black women, they are 5 times more likely to die during complications due to childbirth compared to white women. And we are all, living in UK. You would think that everyone would have an equal access to, similar healthcare facilities. Similarly, our life expectancy still is significantly lower in Black and ethnic minority communities, the BEME communities. Similarly, the increase in terms of both mortality and morbidity, which means by morbidity, we means the repercussions of having some risk factors, and mortality is death. It's significantly 4 times more, both mortality and morbidity, from cardiovascular illnesses, because BAME communities have a higher incidence of cardiovascular illnesses, and Kashmiris are part of that. But we knew all of this, and we know all of this. The question is, how do we move forward to improve the health of the ethnic minorities, to make health services equally accessible to all? And as Elisa was saying, that even how we assess people, if you're assessing someone whose first language is not English, you are not making a good start, because that assessment is going to be flawed. I was at a dementia conference on Friday, a couple of days ago, and we had head of policy, Alzheimer's Society, Gavin Terry, talk there about the variations even in the diagnosis of dementia, and how there is inequalities as a result of that in accessing the treatment and management and support for people amongst Asian communities, amongst Black communities, for those that have got a diagnosis of dementia. Similarly, I'm a psychiatrist in mental health. There is so much disparity that the ethnic minorities are more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act compared to the white population. It's not too different if we compare the two groups, the whites and the non-whites, or what we call the BAME communities. And similarly, the social deprivation, the increased mortality of people who are homeless, all of these put together is so much work that is needed to be done, and it's ongoing work, as I said. So I, as a professional, but also as an individual, am looking beyond census. So census gives us a very good platform in terms of numbers, and then we can break down into all of these different parameters in terms of what's your social background, what's your household income, what are your living conditions, because all of these have an impact not only on health but your opportunities to do well in life, both in terms of achieving education, getting a good job, going into well-paid careers, for example. So I think we all have responsibility as professionals, but also as individuals and at community level. How do we engage our communities to be not only aware of these disparities, but also to actively take part so that they improve the opportunities for themselves? So I think it's a lot of work that we need to continue to do alongside our counselors, alongside National Health Service, alongside our colleagues in the census department, those that are part of the equality campaign. So it needs a concerted effort from everyone, and only then can we make a real positive difference. But what I would like to say is that the British Kashmiri Identity Campaign was a first useful and constructive step on this journey, because it is an ongoing journey and we can't say, we've taken part in the census, we'll see what the results were, and that our work is done. No, I think our work actually starts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shaheen. And I think we are just coming to the end of the show. And before that, I would ask Sardar Aftab, the what are the steps people should take in the near future to improve recognition and more inclusion?
Thanks, Shams. I think one of the area which Consul Daalat just have highlighted is the integrated care communities. They will be the key players in terms of shaping, forming, and influencing local policies. And alongside that, the specific process which we can use effectively with the help of our counselors as well as local community groups is called Joint Strategic Need Assessment. It's called JSNA. So each local authority area has the Joint Strategic Need Assessment, which covers the whole, health, education, crime, community safety issues, all aspects within that particular local authority areas. It goes to the whichever way that local authority organize itself, whether it's called local authority super output areas, LASOs, ward levels, or cluster levels. So different, but that JSNA gives you the real picture. And if we obviously as a campaign, our capacity is very limited. We're all volunteers. This is not, it was a project. And as Dr. Shaheen mentioned, that we just started on that journey. And I would like to welcome the engagement and a dedicated, focused, group of individuals who work on the issues of British Kashmiris living in Britain. Obviously, we've got distracted what's going on in Kashmir. Half of our working day thinking, feeling what's happening back home, because we are intrinsically interlinked with our place of origin. We cannot detach ourselves, but those impacts and events happening ourselves, and which sometimes distract us. But on the basis of my experience and what I would suggest is important from today's program, my plea is that please come forward. And at least if we have 5 or 10 people who dedicate for next 1 year on the UK and the system, we understand the system. Within the system, we understand how it works, but it needs time and effort. So if we're focusing on, for instance, health side of the things, we need 1 or 2 people who work across the health spectrum. Similarly, there is education spectrum, and then obviously criminal justice system, employment, and businesses, because business and economy, our community is a bedrock of the engine of the local communities or local economy, wherever we are, and that is a hidden, and it's not appreciated and recognized, that how much entrepreneurial our people are, how much we contribute in the national economy in terms of local businesses, small businesses, high street businesses, and and that's the like the key element of it. So to cut short, what I would suggest, that the key element is that engaging with the JSNA process, Joint Strategic Need Assessment process, engaging with the integrated care communities process. And the second thing which I would like to share, that we have my colleague Adil Khan, who was the key, one of our key core member of this campaign, we have developed this for the education, we have shared, I would like to share, if you allow me, the web page, the resources for both for like the our exploring the Kashmiri geography and heritage, as well as the Kashmiri identity within the in the UK, and that's how we would like to take it forward. So in the education sector, for instance, we would like from the Kashmiri History Week, in October, but before that, when the resources are ready and they are available, so how can we take it forward? But obviously we need a lead person who can help us to get into education in the schools and make those connections. Even we can start from 2 or 3 pilot projects in 2 or 3 local authorities or areas, and then see on the basis of the learning from there, how can we take forward. As
Thank you.
yeah, so that's the area going forward.
Thank
I
you.
would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you. And last word from Councillor Daalat.
Yeah, thank you. I think everybody has to chip in whatever they can. And in terms of everything is political, people say not political, but everything is political. And I think the political leadership, councillors and whatever, you have to take a bit more responsibility in terms of working at a political and strategic level, like Aftab mentioned, JCNA and all the rest of it. And then I think we need to have more fun as well in terms of music, Lala Kadir and whatever, like we need to knock on mainstream doors and then bring in people through happiness, because all we do is, and one of the things politically I think we need to understand is, every time you mention Kashmir, any MP, any councillor, anybody, oh, we know that, like it's over there, and it's they don't want to. I think we fail to really assert that we exist here, and we're not talking about over there. It is a British equality issue that needs to be addressed, and we need to be included. And obviously, we did comprehensive research on Kashmiri community in Rochdale, and I am willing, and I'm sure Sardar Aftab is willing, and yourself. If somebody wants a seminar in Birmingham, Bradford, we are. But I am prepared to go and talk and present that report and why that report was commissioned and what they can do in their own local authority area. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Daalat Ali, Sardar Aftab Khan, and Dr. Shaheen Shora. Thank you very much, all. And hopefully, this program will help people to understand where the campaign is, what still needs doing, and what we have achieved so far, and what are the opportunities for future. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you again soon with some other issues. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.